Welcome to hashtag 52 Needs, and this week we are talking about peace. And I'm so delighted to have with me Sven Kaven, who's a mindfulness teacher, author, and photographer who has lived and worked all around the world. Currently, Sven's life and work stretch from his hub in Germany to Spain, Portugal, and Norway. Since 2014, Sven has walked over 16,000 kilometers on the Caminos, the traditional pilgrim routes in Germany, Switzerland, Italy, Spain, and Portugal, where he teaches mindfulness and helps people to trust in the power of presence while walking. Sven is the author of A Walk to Be and the soon-to-be released 55 Days in Stillness. Hello, Sven. Great to see you.
Hi. Hi, great to see you too. Lovely to be here.
And it's wonderful to see you. I mean, we met in Lima many years ago in Peru. And you're in Germany, and I'm from Germany. I'm in Australia. And so peace has a totally different meaning to you, possibly, than it has to me. And I'm really curious to find out what that is for you.
Yeah, I'm also curious in which direction it's going to move us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so tell us what peace means to you.
Well, peace, I guess it's the opposite to war, to not being in war, to not, if you like, moving in that conceptual thinking of being in war, maybe resisting something, resisting yourself, or resisting the outside, whatever happens, whatever is there for you to experience in that moment. I guess that's what peace is. It's right the opposite, accepting being with it, instead of not wanting to have it.
Okay. I always like this, when you talk to people, they say, I just want peace. And it's not really the peace from within. It's the peace from something that's outside. I just want peace from other people or from, from stresses. And that's a totally different attitude than when I say my peace comes from within me. And it's about, so for me, it's about having peaceful thoughts, maybe.
Well, yeah. The way I see it is that we're creating actually a problem. If we try to get, if I was to say, or if someone else says, I want peace, that basically means that there is no peace right now in this moment. Well, in that moment, not yesterday, not before. Maybe I experienced peace yesterday, and I will experience peace tomorrow when tomorrow is there. But otherwise, it's usually just a saying of there is no peace. And then, of course, I try to solve that issue of non-peace, and I try to find it in the outside. Even though I may not particularly have a part of it, but I see, for instance, if it's a person, if it's a relationship, if it's my workplace, if it's you name it, if it's the news and television, you want that peace. And maybe people are in resistance to what is being said. We can be peacefully, or we can be peacefully with something even though we do not agree with it. And I think this is what brings peace, because peace is only experience. If you like, you can only experience it from within. There's a truth in it, and depending where we're going with our attention, then we will experience what is there to be experienced. So peace is not something artificially which we find in the outside, but rather something that manifests in us. I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, when we talk about we need peace, I mean, there's always, and I understand that there's a lot of war in the world. And there's, I mean, at any time, I think we've got 50 wars going on, and we're not talking about world peace here at this point. And as much as I would love to have world peace, for me, peace at this point is about my personal need for peace in my life. So how can I have peace in my life? And again, as if I wait for the outside world to bring me peace, it's probably not going to happen. It's got to come from me. And so then can I have peace when the world is in turmoil? Just what you said. And I keep thinking when you just said that Viktor Frankl, who was in a concentration camp in Germany, and he was the one who really connected with his inner peace and his inner purpose. And so he was able to cope with conditions that were really obviously like life-threatening. and he was able to deal with this in a way that other people couldn't. So
yes, absolutely. And there are even more recent examples. If you just look at Nelson Mandela, who has spent so much time in prison, and he remained peaceful with that state in which he got stuck, basically. But he was peaceful with the stuckness, if you like. Yeah. And you could see when he was released from prison, what a peaceful human being he has been.
Yeah.
And luckily we have enough of videos where you can actually see the man, how he is peaceful speaking, how he's peaceful behaving, how he's making peace with the people that were so atrocious to him and others during the time of apartheid. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you can be peaceful in the most terrible situations. Yes.
Yeah. And it's the ability to have that, to maintain that inside and not the external conditions. And I was just about to say something, and it just disappeared, and I hope it's going to come back. But it's about the patience and the tolerance. I think it's the ability to deal with something that reflects. Yeah, it's, oh God, how do I? It's there. I've got so many thoughts at the moment about what peace means and how it plays out in life.
Well, one word that comes up in my mind is equanimity. And if we can cultivate equanimity, then this may be a gateway to peace.
Yeah.
I think in German the word is Gleichmut.
Yeah.
So if we can cultivate this, then the need for fighting it actually flattens down.
Yeah.
There's rather the people start seeing the peacefulness in the unruly part of what's going on.
Yeah.
You don't go about and try to figure it out anymore. You're trying to dissect it, or you're trying to even understand it. Because oftentimes there's no way of understanding this. But instead of being just peacefully in a state of equanimity with it.
Yeah. So for me, it means that you can still have anxieties, you can still have fears, you can still have turmoil, but you don't fight it. You don't go, this is my, I need to put all my energy into that. But I accept that I have these fears and that I have these anxieties. And so I can use them to cope better. And I can use them to grow. And I think that's for me, that's where peace really comes in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's part of our human condition. So what can we do? We are human beings. And this is part of our conditioning. And this is it basically just shows us where we are, what we are at right now.
Yeah. Yes.
And then we have a choice.
We do have a choice. And so again, like when people, and so this is what I'm interested in. It's like, I grew up with, let's maintain the peace at all cost. So there wouldn't be any discussions about things because we were just keeping things peaceful. But that's not peace. That's just the illusion of peace. So peace for me is the ability to have a conversation about something. And even if it means that we agree to disagree, but we get into that state of equanimity and equilibrium again, where we just go, well, okay, you, me.
Yeah, I guess it's a state of consciousness to remain peaceful without striving for having to keep the peace or having to reach peace, even though reaching peace, it's very honorable. I think it's a very beautiful thing to do, but you can't do it in a way of waging war to keep the peace. That has never worked. No. Never, actually. No. It always created more resistance, more war, more harm and suffering.
Yeah.
So the way to peace is to be peaceful. So it's a state of consciousness.
Absolutely. And I just realized what it was that I wanted to say, because you're a meditation teacher. And when you were talking about Nelson Mandela, they have done lots of not just studies, but they've actually applied it. They've taken meditation into prisons. And when they taught people how to meditate there, the violence just dropped down considerably. And people came out of this in a totally different way. So they didn't relapse into violence or into crime. They changed their lives often considerably. And I know that they've done peace meditations. And when they then checked afterwards, they found that in the area where when there were a certain number of people and they reached a certain critical mass number, and I can't tell you what it is, but they've got a formula, so many % of the population meditates on peace at the same time, and the crime rate drops, or the war effort drops for a period of times, for a number of days, considerably. So I find that really fascinating.
It is fascinating. It definitely is fascinating, and it is, but at the same time, it is just a logical consequence. It's a logical consequence, and there is also just a consequence because this is the way life works. Because when we start realizing that we don't have to be taken hostage by the automatisms which we are being taken by. Oh God, did I say that right? It's basically, we live our automatisms without actually realizing that we do live them. So there's an aspect of unconsciousness in it. So, but when we start realizing, when we get a realization of the automatisms which we have been living, then we have the chance to actually reset, or to go to the breathing, or just realizing, oh, there is anger, there is sadness, or whatever there is, or maybe there's the need of wanting to punch the other guy in the face, and you just catch that. You're just catching it. You say, whoa, that's interesting that I just wanted to do that. So meditation just simply helps us to practice self-awareness, right? So, and when you start being self-aware, then you can act again, and you have a choice.
Okay, so meditation is not a useful tool, but it is a useful tool. But finding inner stillness is for me, I mean, I find that it creates that sense of, it's like a 0 point, like when my pendulum swings in one direction and I go into anger or fear, then it brings me back down into center. It's, and again, I can get really hyped up about something on the other hand, like get, not anxious, but I can be, like you can be anxious before Christmas, am I going to get the pony? Or I can get really excited, am I going to get the pony? So, there's not much difference in the biology. But when I focus in meditation on stillness and on peace, then it brings me back down to center. What's your experience?
Well, I just love the example with the pendula, yeah, because the pendula is basically, it's let's say it's our emotional swings, but exactly where the 0 point is down here. This is where we are centered. This is where we are, let's say, in stillness. This is where the stuff happens, basically, in the vertical. This is where it all happens, and if we can be there, through meditation, through letting go, through acceptance, then we can actually see what is there for us in life. And that is, this is something that just, what's the word? Let's call it calms you down, because you're already calm, because you're practicing calming, being here and not being in the past or in the future. And what I also find very interesting is if you don't use meditation in order to reach something, so striving for a particular outcome, then meditation becomes a useful tool until you don't need that tool anymore. It's just a tool at the end of the day. Yeah. If you want to put up a picture in the wall, you need to drill a hole, or you need to put a screw in, or hammer a nail in. You use the hammer or the screw or whatever, but then you put it aside again. You don't keep holding the hammer in your hand, and the picture is already up on the wall. You put it aside. It's not useful right now anymore, but the picture is there. So let's say the picture on the wall is what is there for you in stillness. You're just accessing it, and by accessing stillness, let's take the example with the picture on the wall. You just look at the picture on the wall. It's already hanging there. Yeah. Right? There's nothing else to do.
exactly. And I love how you said, like you get to that moment of stillness and that's where it all happens. But there's nothing that happens really. It's just, again, that's where we go from being a human doing to being a human being. And that's when, that's when the stuff happens.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe another word is this is where it's not that stuff happens, because nothing really happens, just as you said, but you can actually experiencing it.
Yeah.
You can actually experiencing it in getting out of the automatisms, which we're so used to. Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, Angela, there's nothing to do. We can just choose if we want to live a life which is more conscious and more enjoyable, or whatever you want to do. If you want to do what you love, you want to do in your life, then you need to be aware of what you love in your life, and then you do it. So if you're not aware of it and you think you need to struggle all your life, well, then you will struggle all your life. And meditation is a way of getting you down to the ground. That's why we sit when we sit in meditation, to be connected.
Yeah. So again, peace doesn't come from fighting something. I'm again, when people say, oh, I'm going to an anti-war rally, that's you put all your energy into fighting war. But when you go to a peace rally, you focus on what you want instead. I always say, I can't remember who said that, but I would never go to an anti-war rally. I would only go to a peace rally. And it was, I don't know, it wasn't Martin Luther King, but it was somebody of that ilk. And it's the focus on what we want, like the who do we want to be, where we create that inner harmony within ourselves. And that's from there things start happening, I think. When we're fighting ourselves, or when we're fighting other people, like expectations that other people have of us, then it's really hard to create peace. But when we are at one with ourselves, and when we have that peace within, it's much, much easier. And then when we can do all the things that you said, like we can do the work that we want to do, we can have the relationships we want to have, all that inner turmoil is gone.
But we must not fall into that mistake or misunderstanding that first I have to have peace and then I can do this, because it doesn't work one after the other.
No,
it just happens all at once.
Yes.
And there's a lovely saying, actually. Well, first of all, we are the change we want to see in the world. So that's number one. Everyone knows this one, but it seems so hard to actually put this into practice. But there's another beautiful saying, because you talked about war demos, anti-war or peace demonstrations. But just imagine, I don't know who said it, but I just say it. Just imagine there's war and no one goes to fight. There wouldn't be war.
Yeah.
So it is up to every single human being. So if every single human being on this planet would decide to not go to war, then there wouldn't be war. It couldn't be, right?
Yeah.
It just couldn't be. Then there's peace. Peace from within.
Yes, I'm going to go with another story, and that's the one about the Indian who talks to his grandson and says, "You've got two wolves inside of you. One is the angry wolf and one is the peaceful wolf. You will have both of them, but what matters is which one you feed."
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So peace is not something that comes from without, it comes from within. And again, it's not an easy process where you are, I'm now in peace and everything is wonderful, rainbows, unicorns, and flowers, but it's an ongoing process.
It's an ongoing process. And at the end of the day, if you're experiencing war, it just mirrors you that there is unpeacefulness in you. That's all it's doing. So you're just reflecting it. Or the world reflects you in this way. The world is actually reflecting to you the parts of unpeacefulness in you.
Well, I think we have a lot to work on then.
Yes, we do. We do. We just have to take one step back. That's all. That's all. We just have to take a step back.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a good place to stop. I know we can talk about this much more, and I'm sure we will. Thank you so much. And I hope this has been has given people some thought starters to what does peace mean for you, and what do you need to have a peaceful life, and how much peace do you actually want in your life. And Thank you so much, Sven. And I'll see you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, ciao.